If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new album in the description. Let's talk about this new Lil Durk album, because obviously that is like the talk of hip-hop right now. The big album that dropped last week on Friday, March 11th. This was an album that I talked about quite a bit before it dropped, because it was also one of the albums of 2022 that I was most excited about. Lil Durk has been on like an upward slope in his career, just going straight to the top following the release of his last solo project, The Voice, which, got him to a whole nother level. Then also collaborating with people like Drake on Laugh Now Cry Later. Then also doing that collaborative tape with Lil Baby, the voice of the Heroes, being on the DJ Khaled album, doing a tour with Lil Baby. So this dude has been like just going crazy the past 2 to 3 years and has really revived his career. Now this album leading up to it, of course, received a lot of hype because people were excited what Lil Durk was going to do next in his career. I labeled this before it dropped one of, as a stepping stone in his career that will allow him to go to the next phase of being like even more successful, also commercially. I predicted that he would have, more like mainstream features on there. And if all of that came true, that's what we're going to look at today in this review. So 7220 dropped, as I said, on March 11th. It has 17 songs on it and spans across 45 minutes. We've received 3 singles from this thing before it dropped. One of them was the Pissed Me Off single that I like quite a bit. Another one was the Aha single that went even harder, and that Morgan Wallen collab, Broadway Girls, that I was just excited about because it was Lil Durk just trying something different. And I thought that song turned out pretty good, even though it's not like a typical Lil Durk song that I would put on, but it's just a fun little track. Now the other 14 tracks on here we didn't hear before, and that's also what I was most excited about, because usually those deep cuts are the ones that I enjoy the most from Durkio. So let's actually look at if this, also came true on this album. We start off with Started From and then Head Taps. On these 2 tracks, it kind of opens up like a typical Lil Durk album. Started From and Head Taps feature him doing those melodic types of flows that we've also primarily seen on The Voice. That was also a version of Durkio that myself I enjoyed the most, and that's also why I was quite happy that he started out like that. Also Started From, referred also back to his grandmother's house, what 7220 actually means, the address of his grandmother's house where it all started in, as he said. Now the third track is Aha. This track goes really hard. I really like this track, and I'm glad that it made the track list. And I also like the references to him responding to people talking about King Von on here, so I do think that this is a very important track for Durkio as well. Shootout at My Crib and then also Golden Child are again in this very more melodic style that Durkio has previewed over the past 2-3 years especially, but have a more drill, more aggressive vibe to it, which I really enjoy. Then track number 6, probably my favorite track from the ones we haven't heard, is No Interviews. This one, I've seen a lot of reviews already describe this one as him taking inspiration from Lil Baby, because when you listen to this, especially how he comes in the first verse and then also the hook, it's very Lil Baby reminiscent. So I think that they might have recorded this together or for the Voice of the Heroes, and now it's on this album. But I do enjoy that quite a lot. I think that he's can fit in that style perfectly as well. Track number 7 is probably what people like the most. That track, I've seen a lot of y'all on the Discord also like this. It's called Petty 2 featuring Future. There we have one of those big name features on there. It's also doing the best, I think, from the album so far, from the new tracks. Myself, it's like an okay track. I don't think they're talking about much in terms of substance and content on here, but I get why people gravitate towards this, because obviously a Future feature is always appealing. Barbarian is a track that just seems like a very basic Lil Durk track, and I know that's kind of ironic that I say I like those, the voice tracks, like the first 2 tracks, Head Taps for example, and then I don't really like this one. it's okay, but this one doesn't really have a lot of character and personality itself, and I feel like there's just something missing. I feel like I've heard this track 1,000 times before. Then What Happened to Virgil with Gunna, I thought was a pretty cool track. I enjoyed Gunna on here as well. I thought Gunna did really well on his verse on there. I was very surprised by that. So I like What Happened to Virgil quite a bit. And then one of my favorite tracks as well is Grow Up / Keep It on Speaker, a double track, especially the second part though, Keep It on Speaker. I feel like this is where Durkio really tapped into, like, album mode. This is where he wanted to not just create a playlist of different tracks, just like he's usually doing, but actually create something bigger. When you listen to it, it's a very epic kind of sound to it, and him, the way he's projecting his voice in there, I really like that. That's one of my favorite tracks, and I hope that in the future we see more of that from Durkio. So Keep It on Speaker, probably in terms of what I expected for this album, one of my favorites. Smoking and Thinking and Blacklist, really not that much going on, even though we do get some more insights into what's going on in Durkio's life, obviously. Differences with Summer Walker I thought was also pretty good. I also like that he had the Summer Walker feature on here. Federal Nightmares and Love Dior Banks are, two great tracks I'll go back to a little bit in the future. Love Dior Banks, obviously the daughter of his brother D-Thang that recently got killed, rest in peace. So I like that, he somewhat paid respect to it on here as well, just like he's done so many times in his in the past in his music as well. Piss Me Off and Broadway Girls, we already heard those two tracks, like them quite a bit. So I'm not, this is pretty good ending to the album, even though maybe like a individual track as the outro would have been great as well, but I'm not too mad at that. So while 7220 didn't fully come through on like my expectations of being another stepping stone in terms of going up in his career, I think for that, especially for the big commercial success, because so far none of the tracks are really like charting, they're charting but not like hit type of charting. There was supposed to be Drake feature on here or two that didn't make it, maybe on the deluxe, maybe those will then chart, but what I was trying to say is the big features were missing for that. But I like that he kept it real again, showed a love to a lot of people that are close to him, also his brother in India as well, obviously. So all in all, this album is just a really solid Lil Durk album, and my favorite track on here, probably No Interviews, but then also Keep It on Speaker, I hope is a sign for a future Durkio with a more storytelling and creating an epic big album type of vibe. I hope this is a sign for that. But yeah, this is my thoughts and my opinion on this album. Let me know what you think about this. Were you excited for this album? What did you think of the final outcome? What track was your favorite? What track was your least favorite? Were you expecting Durkio to deliver an album like this? Where do you want him to go in the future? And what do you think this album could stand for or mean in his discography? All of that, let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and you'll take care.